In this video, we're going to connect to the Trello REST API. Now, the authentication for Trello is a key and a token that you can get by going to this URL. And those two are going to allow us to connect to Trello. If you see, this is an example of a URL that we're going to construct in order to get information from Trello and post information to Trello. Right here is the key. That'll be your key that you get from this URL. And here's the token. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to create a form that's going to allow the user to set their key and their token and save it to the database. So we have a Trello demo here, and we're going to the data model. Click New. And we want to go to Accounts, and we're going to use the account form. The basic account form is when the service wants a password and username. The OAuth1 will be specific for OAuth1 authentication and OAuth2 with OAuth2. Since we're just using a key and token that we're going to save, we're going to use just a normal account form. Now, all of these forms will have fields already on the form. The name field will be and is active checkbox. That way, your user is going to be able to check the checkbox if they want it to be active or uncheck it if they want to be disabled. That'll give your user some control over what accounts they're going to be pulling the information from. So let's pull an account form. Okay, we don't need to add a name field. That's already added when we create this form. But we do need to add the key field and the token field. So let's add the key field. And that'll be just a normal text editor. And we will add a token field. We'll set that as a password field because we don't want people to be able to see the token. Okay, that's all we need for our account form. When we run the software, it will have the API key, the token field, and it'll have a name field and a is active checkbox. So let's save that, and then we'll go to Home, and we'll start creating our forms for the information we get back from Trello. What we're going to do is get back the boards. We want a list of boards. So here, if we click on the board object, we get a list of all these board fields. And we have some JSON. This is actually the format you're going to retrieve, and the software will convert it into the fields. So we're going to create the Trello board form right now. Create new. And we'll drag a grid form. We're going to use the Trello navigation. Now we can add an image if we want. For the account form, we're going to set that to the Trello account form. Since we can be pulling in data from different accounts, we need to keep track of which account the data is from. And by doing that, we set the account form there. That way, when we retrieve the data, the software will be able to set a field within the data to point towards this account. Otherwise, we wouldn't know which account or which form the account would come from. And we'll save the project. Let's take a look at the JSON. These are the fields. These are going to be the property fields that we're going to want to get. Sometimes they'll have some of the JSON, but they won't have all the fields. So a lot of times I actually like to make a call through Postman to actually see what is returned. So we have, this is the data from an actual call that we're going to make. We're going to actually duplicate what this just did. So this is the data for all the boards. Now we can either copy the JSON from the Postman, or we can just get it from this example. Now what I want to point out with JSON, usually an object starts with this curly bracket. So this would be the start of a object, of a record, I guess. Record, or it would be equivalent to our form. Now if we were looking for a list, sometimes our records will have lists like memberships. When it starts with a bracket like this, that means that's a list. And then here is the first object in the list, and here is the second object in the list. When they start with this, it's an object or record. When it starts with this, it's a list. So let's copy this JSON here. And we'll click on the form, go over to the properties, and click Create from JSON. We're going to paste that JSON in there, and then we're going to click OK. Now it took that JSON and it created all of the properties. It did not create, like I said, sometimes they'll have lists, like in the membership, I'll have a list there. It did not create these lists. And if there was an object like preferences, it did not create that because it's not really a editor, it's more of a relationship. So we're going to have to do that as well. But what we first want to do is we want to go through and check to see. Oh, let's save this. If we want to change the property names, clean it up. Actually, we could even probably get rid of some of these if we don't want them. The less you have, the easier it is for the user to read. Okay, so we also have some date time editors. Now this is important to know what type of converter. Let's see if there's a date field. Okay, here's the date field. Now, to see how the format is, we need to know what type of a format that Trello uses in order to be able to convert it to a format that we can use. I did a Trello date form API date format. And the answer I got here, I must have missed it when I was going through, was now this is a standard date format. And this is the default that we use for our converters, but you can select a different type of converter here, a date time converter. Anyway, let's click OK. So these date fields are all correct. It's using the right converter. So that's one thing you really want to make sure. We want to go to the ID, and we have the ID is key. That's important too. We want to be able, the software needs to know what the key is. So we want to make sure that that key is selected for the ID field. Okay, let's save that. And okay, well, notice that say your customers may want to see the memberships associated with that board. As of right now, we don't have any memberships because it's not really a property. It's a form of its own. It's an object. So what we're going to do is we're going to create that form by dragging a grid form over, and we'll name it Trello member form. We're going to keep the navigation blank because we only want the person to gain access to the member forms through the board itself. And we'll set the account, and we can set an image. And what we'll do, we want the object itself. This whole, like I said, when it comes with the brackets, that's a list. And each one of these is an object, is a record. So we're just going to copy one record, and we're going to go back, select the member form, and we're going to paste it in. And click OK. And that'll create the properties for that. Let's double click the ID. Oh, let's save. Double click the ID and make sure that key is set. We can change the captions for this. Yep, ID member. And that looks pretty good. So let's hit save. Now we want to show this form as a list in the Trello board form. So let's select the Trello board, and we're going to click relationships. Now this is going to be different than what we do with the regular forms. It doesn't really work similar. So we had to come up with a unique way of doing it. So we'll click add. And we're going to select the Trello member form to add to this board form. It's going to be a one or many. We're going to click many because this is a list. And we will type in members. And the JSON name, if we go back to this, is memberships. So click copy, and we'll paste. And there we go. Right now, we're going to run the software, and we're going to write the script to get our board forms.